Hi there, Alfredo here. What is supply-driven production planning? It is a form of manufacturing planning which is not demand-driven, like MPS, Master Production Schedule, or MRP, Material Requirement Planning. Supply-driven planning is production planning that starts from the constraints about storing raw materials that cannot be stored in the warehouse for too long. And just receiving that raw material triggers the necessity to process the raw materials into one or more than one finished items or even WIP items. In this case, you might think, well, Business Central doesn't really help, but in fact it does help, and it helps with families. So let's see how it works. In this example, I created a family called Ice Cream Batch, and we're making flavors, fruit flavors. So here I just have two examples, ice cream and watermelon, my favorite ice cream flavors. I could add, 10, 20 items here. The number of items doesn't matter, really, just the principle. We have items that share the same raw materials in the bill of materials. So let's look at the items quickly, one by one. Ice cream strawberry, and if we look at the structure, I can see I have fresh milk and fresh strawberries. And we also have unit of measures in liters and kilograms. This is critical because Business Central with families, with this kind of supply-driven planning, works very well with quantities that are not measurable in terms of units, right? So you can be flexible, like a batch of milk, 200 liters, that can be reworked and make. We need to make ice cream because the fresh milk would just expire in the warehouse, right? Notice how in this BOM structure, I have no routines, no operations. This is key. I didn't leave it out just because I wanted to show you an example quickly. The operations, labor, is absolutely in this example, but it's not here, it's somewhere else. I'll show you that in a moment. So we make strawberry ice cream with fresh milk and fresh strawberries. And we also have watermelon, which, guess what, we make with fresh milk, same, and fresh watermelon. Again, the same principle, liters and kilograms, and no routing on purpose. So what happens when we receive a batch of fresh milk from our supplier and we need to stop production of our ice cream because we cannot store it in a warehouse and wait for the demand of fresh ice cream to come, right? In retail, right, I might not know what I'm going to sell. I've got fresh milk, I need to turn it into ice cream. So supply-driven production is with one raw material constraint or more that drive the production of one or more finished goods or WIP items, shows in a family pretty much like this. And notice how the quantity of the two flavors can be different. Because again, when I start this batch, I might not want to make the same quantity of all of the items in it, right? So 10 liters of strawberry ice cream and 5 liters of watermelon ice cream, because one sells more, right? So what happens when then I create a firm plan production order? Firm plan production order looks something like this. I have an order for a family. And now I need to tell Business Central how many batches of this family I want to produce. And as I refresh the production order, I get a production order to make each flavor. And notice how the quantity reflects, of course, the quantity I have in the family. Now, from here, planning gets rather sophisticated because I can see availability by BOM level from for each of these items. So the ice cream, strawberry ice cream, requires this amount of fresh milk and this amount of strawberries, and it also tells me how much I can make. And here, look, it tells me that I haven't got enough milk to make the batch. But hold on a moment, because this is where it gets interesting. If I check availability by event on the milk, now I see both flavors contributing to the planning, right? And I can see that actually I might not have enough to make one flavor or the other. And so this immediately tells me the supply constraints I have, essentially the milk. So here you can see that I got 250 on hand liters, but I have components that require 450. And because the raw materials constraints drives the plan, then I need to do something about it. Maybe because I don't really plan to sell too much melon ice cream, I'm going to make a short batch of 5 liters only. And then maybe, again, instead of 100 liters, maybe 80 liters of strawberry will work. Again, I go to availability by BOM level and I see how much milk I got. And now it tells me that I got enough. Again, if I want to drill down into availability by event, right, I can see that what I'm going to get at the end of the batch will leave me with enough milk to make, I don't know, a different flavor, which is not here, right? So another benefit of using this method is that the costing of the batch, not just of the individual items, will be managed. So I have expected cost against actuals. I can have material variance by flavor. I can have capacity variance by flavor, because these are individual lines. And if I look at the routing, I can see the routing, because the routing is associated to the entire family. So now, by working out the different quantities and therefore different labor, and therefore different labor absorption or capacity costs, I can pretty much work out what I can or I cannot make. You can see unit cost is 0 here, but because I just created these items, when I want to release the order, I'm ready to start, I can release it and update the unit cost. And so if I now check my released production order, I can see the ice cream, and here, there we go. You can see now the expected cost, including capacity and including material cost, which in my case are the fresh fruit and the milk. And this is the unit cost updated based on the work I have just done on the released production order. So, supply-driven production plan for batches of products that share the same raw materials. In a way, it's almost like a reverse BOM, when a batch of milk, right, must be used for more flavors. Not really a reverse BOM, because a reverse BOM is a bit more complicated, but it gets very, very close. So I hope you find it interesting. If you got any question about the supply-driven planning and families in Business Central, let me know. I'll see you in the next video.